Compared with Mars and Venus, Mercury may seem like a rather dull world. To begin with, it is the smallest planet in the solar system. Because of its proximity to the Sun, no one ever seriously expected to find intelligent beings there, or even the most primitive form of life. On top of that, Mercury is extremely difficult to reach. A journey there is considerably more challenging than an expedition to Pluto. But appearances, as we know, can be deceiving. Although the first planet from the Sun is not as popular as its neighbors in the solar system, it is a fascinating world that still holds many secrets. Today, we will explore how humanity has studied Mercury and why this planet deserves much closer attention. Of all the planets in the solar system visible to the naked eye, Mercury is probably the most difficult to observe, especially from the middle latitudes. The reason is that it can only be seen during a relatively short period immediately after sunset or just before sunrise, and even then, it remains quite low above the horizon. This has given rise to a popular astronomical legend claiming that, late in life, the brilliant Nicolaus Copernicus once complained that he had never managed to see the elusive planet with his own eyes. Another rather interesting fact is that the Indian astronomical treatise Surya Siddhanta, dating from the 5th century, gives an estimate of Mercury's radius as 2,420 kilometers, only about 1% different from the actual value. There is, however, an important detail. This estimate was based on fundamentally incorrect assumptions about the planet's apparent angular size in the sky. The fact that the authors came so close to the real figure was most likely an extraordinary coincidence rather than evidence of some lost ancient knowledge. The invention of the telescope expanded humanity's knowledge of Mercury, although not very dramatically. In 1631, Pierre Gassendi became the first person to observe the planet passing across the disk of the Sun. He was struck by how small it appeared. Soon afterward, astronomers discovered Mercury's changing phases, finally proving that it orbits the Sun. As more powerful telescopes were developed, astronomers made their first attempts to map Mercury's surface. Unsurprisingly, these efforts were not especially successful. In the modern era, it became clear that all maps of Mercury produced before the space age had very little in common with reality. In 1859, the famous astronomer Urbain Le Verrier, the same scientist whose calculations had helped lead to the discovery of Neptune 13 years earlier, announced the detection of an anomalous shift in the perihelion of Mercury's orbit. This motion could not be explained within the framework of classical Newtonian mechanics. Le Verrier believed that it was caused by another, still undiscovered planet located between Mercury and the Sun. This hypothetical object was named Vulcan, and Le Verrier even calculated its orbit. Yet despite numerous searches, astronomers failed to find the new planet. The mystery of Mercury's orbital precession was solved only after Albert Einstein published his general theory of relativity in 1915. It turned out that the anomaly was caused by relativistic effects resulting from Mercury's proximity to the Sun. Before the beginning of the space age, most scientists were convinced that Mercury always kept the same side facing the Sun. When observing the planet through telescopes, astronomers repeatedly saw the same light and dark markings on its surface. Science fiction writers quickly embraced the idea, imagining a world where rivers of molten lead flowed across one hemisphere, while the other was trapped in darkness and bitter cold. Then, in 1965, a sensational discovery was announced. Measurements made by the Arecibo radio telescope showed that Mercury does rotate on its axis, completing one rotation every 58 days, while its orbital period around the Sun is 88 days. In other words, the two periods are locked in a 3-to-2 resonance. So why had astronomers been so badly mistaken? Mercury was usually observed when it was at inferior conjunction with Earth, the point at which the two planets were closest to one another. But, by an interesting coincidence, Mercury's synodic period, the interval between two successive conjunctions, is 116 days. During the time between two inferior conjunctions, Mercury completes exactly 2 rotations on its axis, and once again presents the same side toward Earth. Because astronomers always saw the same pattern through their telescopes, it was reasonable for them to conclude that the planet was tidally locked to the Sun. One little known fact about Mercury is that, in a sense, it, not Venus, is actually the planet closest to Earth. If we compare the minimum possible distance between planetary orbits, then Venus is indeed closer. But if we calculate the average distance between the planets, Mercury is the closest planet to Earth for most of the year. This makes it even more surprising that Mercury is also one of the most difficult planets to reach. The reason is the Sun. The main problem is not even its intense radiation, although any spacecraft sent there requires a protective heat shield. The real challenge is gravity. Because Mercury is so close to the Sun, solar gravity has an enormous influence on any spacecraft traveling toward it. To enter orbit around Mercury, the spacecraft must lose a tremendous amount of speed, which requires a great deal of fuel. Unfortunately, modern launch vehicles cannot simply send an automated spacecraft carrying enough fuel to perform such a major braking maneuver. Even a flyby mission to Mercury requires expensive trajectory corrections. And, as we will discuss shortly, Mercury has no substantial atmosphere, making it impossible to use aerobraking to reduce speed. This is one of the main reasons why the closest planet to the Sun has never been at the center of space exploration. The Soviet Union, for example, never seriously considered sending any mission to Mercury. The situation in the United States was somewhat different. During the early years of the space age, some American scientists considered sending a spacecraft that would become an artificial satellite of Mercury. The massive Saturn V rocket was proposed for the launch. However, severe cuts to NASA's budget brought the idea to an end. Fortunately, engineers developed a much cheaper solution: a flyby spacecraft that would use the gravity of Venus to reach its destination. The mission was named Mariner 10. In this way, NASA could accomplish two goals at once. First, it could begin filling in one of the remaining blank areas on the map of the solar system. Second, it could test the technique of gravitational assists, which would later become essential for organizing more complex and scientifically important missions to the giant planets. Mariner 10 was launched in November 1973. 3 months later, it flew past Venus. Scientists used the opportunity to capture a series of striking ultraviolet images of the planet's atmosphere. Venus's gravity altered Mariner 10's trajectory, allowing it to make repeated flybys of Mercury. The first encounter took place in March 1974. Mariner 10 completed 2 more flybys before contact with the spacecraft was lost forever. The images sent back by Mariner 10 revealed landscapes that looked remarkably similar to those of the Moon. Mercury's surface was covered with countless ancient impact craters. Another similarity between Mercury and the Moon was the almost complete absence of an atmosphere. Mercury's gaseous envelope is extremely thin and consists of particles captured from the solar wind or knocked off the surface by it. It is so sparse that its atoms collide with the planet more often than they collide with one another. However, it soon became clear that this first impression was misleading. Although Mercury resembles the Moon on the outside, its internal structure shares several characteristics with Earth. For example, scientists were surprised to discover that Mercury has its own magnetic field, whereas Venus and Mars, both much larger planets, lack a global magnetic field. The data from Mariner 10 greatly increased scientific interest in Mercury, especially in its internal structure. Researchers wanted to understand the nature of the planet's core and how it could maintain a permanent magnetic field. Unfortunately, NASA had other priorities at the time. As a result, Mariner 10 remained the only mission to visit the closest planet to the Sun during the 20th century. Astronomers, therefore, had to rely on remote observations. Studies conducted with the Arecibo radio telescope during the 1990s produced an intriguing discovery. Unusual bright regions were detected near Mercury's poles. The characteristics of the reflected radar signals closely resembled those observed on the icy moons of the giant planets. At first, most scientists were extremely skeptical about the possibility of ice existing on Mercury. However, after deposits of ice were confirmed at the bottoms of permanently shadowed polar craters on the Moon, the idea gradually gained wider acceptance. In 2004, NASA finally launched the second mission to Mercury in history. It was called Messenger. Its main objectives were to map the planet's entire surface, study its magnetic field and internal structure, and determine the nature of the mysterious regions near the poles. To accomplish these goals, the spacecraft had to enter a permanent orbit around Mercury, which, as we have already explained, was far from a simple task. The solution was an extremely complex trajectory involving 7 years of flight and 6 gravity assist maneuvers to reduce the spacecraft's speed, 1 near Earth, 2 near Venus, and 3 near Mercury itself. Fortunately, NASA's calculations proved correct, and in March 2011, Messenger became the first artificial satellite of Mercury. Interestingly, during its journey, the spacecraft traveled a total distance of 7.9 billion kilometers. That is almost 2 billion kilometers more than the distance between Earth and Pluto. Messenger operated in orbit around Mercury for 4 years. The data it collected revealed important details about the planet's internal structure. Scientists discovered that Mercury's core has a radius of approximately 2,020 kilometers, while the radius of the entire planet is about 2,440 kilometers. This means that the core accounts for around 57% of Mercury's internal volume. For comparison, Earth's core accounts for about 17%. At present, there are 2 main hypotheses explaining Mercury's unusually large core. According to the more popular theory, Mercury originally formed as a typical rocky planet. However, after colliding with a massive object, it lost much of its crust and mantle, which were blasted into space. An alternative explanation suggests that Mercury formed in the inner region of the protoplanetary disk, where lighter elements were already extremely scarce. Messenger also produced the first complete map of Mercury's surface. In addition to impact craters, the planet was found to be covered with numerous cliffs and scarps extending for hundreds of kilometers. These structures formed because Mercury is literally shrinking. The planet's interior is gradually cooling, causing its crust to crack and sections of it to be pushed over one another. Over the last 4 billion years, Mercury's total surface area has decreased by about 1%, an area comparable in size to Turkey. The shrinking process continues even today. Another important discovery concerned the structure of the core. Planetary scientists had previously believed that it was solid, but analysis of the new data forced them to revise this view in favor of a molten core. How such a small planet manages to retain a liquid core remains the subject of scientific debate. Messenger also made precise measurements of Mercury's surface temperature. During the day, temperatures can rise to 427 degrees Celsius, while at night they can fall to -173 degrees Celsius. Therefore, although Mercury is not the hottest planet in the solar system, that title belongs to Venus, it experiences the greatest temperature variations of any planet. The spacecraft also determined the nature of the mysterious polar regions. Despite the doubts of skeptics, Mercury really does contain large deposits of water ice at the bottoms of polar craters that are never illuminated by the sun. The Messenger mission ended in 2015. After the spacecraft exhausted its fuel, the influence of solar gravity caused it to descend from orbit and crash into the planet, making it the first human-made object to reach Mercury's surface. Messenger performed exceptionally well and collected a vast amount of information about Mercury. Even so, it was unable to solve all the mysteries of the closest planet to the Sun. Fortunately for scientists, a new opportunity to answer their questions is approaching. In 2018, the European Space Agency, or ESA, launched its first mission to Mercury, named BepiColombo. The spacecraft consists of 3 main components, a transfer module and 2 scientific orbiters. One orbiter was built by ESA, while the other was developed by the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, or JAXA. Like Messenger, BepiColombo must complete a long and complicated journey before entering a stable orbit around Mercury. Its route includes 9 gravity assist maneuvers near Earth, Venus, and Mercury. At the time this original script was written, the spacecraft had completed a little more than half of its journey, and its arrival was expected in December 2025. After entering orbit around Mercury, the European and Japanese spacecraft will separate from the transfer module and begin their scientific missions. The program includes an intensive study of Mercury's geology and magnetic field, detailed mapping of its water ice deposits, and precise measurements that will provide additional tests of general relativity. Scientists hope that BepiColombo's data will finally answer questions about Mercury's internal structure and the nature of its core. They also want to determine whether tectonic activity is still continuing on the planet. In addition, Mercury is the closest accessible analog of a number of exoplanets that orbit very close to their stars. Observations made by BepiColombo will help scientists better understand the nature of such worlds. At present, space agencies have no formal plans to send additional spacecraft to Mercury. Most likely, many years will pass before another mission follows BepiColombo. However, in the more distant future, when humanity begins the large-scale exploration of the solar system, Mercury could become increasingly important. Deposits of water ice near the poles could make it easier to establish permanent settlements. It is also worth remembering that Mercury has a magnetic field that deflects a significant portion of the solar wind and cosmic radiation, reducing radiation levels at the surface. But why would humanity want to develop Mercury in the first place? One possible answer is energy. Mercury receives far more energy from the Sun than Earth does. This energy could be collected by enormous solar power stations and then exported to other planets. Another possibility would be to use it to accelerate spacecraft equipped with solar sails. Another potentially important resource on Mercury is helium-3, which many scientists describe as a possible cornerstone of future fusion energy. This element is usually mentioned in connection with proposals for commercial mining on the Moon. However, the concentration of helium-3 on Mercury's surface may be significantly higher than on Earth's natural satellite, making the planet a highly attractive target for future industrial development. So although Mercury remains in the shadow of space exploration today, that may change in a future that is not exactly close, but perhaps not as distant as it seems.